to part 3 of my Reshaping a Turning Tool series. In part 3, we're going to be sharpening or honing the cutting edge of our tools so that we have a nice sharp edge to cut with. If you haven't watched parts 1 and 2, on those I have the tools on the grinder and I discuss how and what I'm doing to change the bevel angle on those tools. If you're just here to watch someone sharpen and hone something, this is be a good video for that too. And in the end of this video, I'm also going to do a cut test for you on the lathe, just so you can see how they cut, because I was excited to see how they're going to cut too once I was finished. So I hope you found this useful. Please enjoy, and thanks for watching. Okay, YouTube. So far, we have done some sharpening. Well, not sharpening. We've done some shaping on reshaping a skew chisel. And I hope everyone realizes that in that video, I was taking my good old-fashioned time with that. There's no reason why, if you're skilled enough, you can't take this, put it against a grinding wheel, go zip a couple of times, and you've actually got your grind done. But I'll show you. I didn't come all the way up to this edge here. It's still a little different. I don't know if you guys will be able to see my line here though. I have a nice straight line on that heel all the way across. That ground really well. Same on this one. I have a nice straight line all the way across, which is what I was shooting for. In terms of size for what I was shooting for, I was going for 11/32. I hit one at 12/32, and that one's probably like 12.5/32. So we came pretty darn close to what we were shooting for, free-handed. So I can't complain. Next thing I'm going to do is hone this, or start to hone it a little bit. I just happen to have some penetrating oil in my hands. I use a sharpening stone. You can get a sharpening card. Then a nice coating of oil. It will penetrate into the stone. Find the heel, then find the tip, and start to work it back and forth. Again, I'm doing this free-handed. At this point, I'm almost more concerned with the heel than I am with the cutting edge, but the point to this is to get a sharp cutting edge. So, let's see how we're looking. Sometimes you're going to have to pull a piece of paper, a paper towel, just to wipe the oil off, whatever you're using. You want to be able to see real well what you're doing. And when I'm done, this is going to have a very, very nice edge. So I'm going to find the heel, find the edge, and we're going to straighten this baby out. That way, if I'm off by 1/32, we're going to have a nice, straight, flat bevel. Let's actually put some more oil on this. Just about anything you have for lubrication works well for this. Find the heel, go to town. Make little Cheerios, do circles. And make sure you're using more than just one spot on your stone too. You don't want to stay in one spot, otherwise you're going to have a sharpening stone that's wore down all in the middle. And if you reach that point, you might as well throw the stone away. If you're using diamond, which is what most people recommend for this type of thing, then you're probably doing a little better off than I am. Right. Here we go again. And I might do this for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. It all depends on how good I am at grinding. There are certain chisels that I do better than others. And there are certain chisels that I struggle with to reshape or sharpen. A detail spindle gouge is one of those things that I kind of struggle with when I'm sharpening it. I find that one difficult to get the angle right. Diamond will do this a lot faster. But if you don't have diamond in your shop, there's nothing wrong with using a sharpening stone It just takes time. But diamond will definitely do this a lot faster than a conventional sharpening stone. This is woodworking on a budget right here. You don't have to be rich to do this. So right now I'm straightening out the line on my heel. Because no matter how good you are, if you're going to cut it free-handed, you know there's going to be minute little tiny waves in that heel. So I've actually got my cutting edge just a hair off the surface, while I give myself a nice straight edge along the heel. If you're a real bad grinder, you may want to use the aggressive side of your sharpening stone. But then you're going to have to spend that much more time cleaning it back up too. I like things to be nice and neat and matched. If I had a diamond stone, I'd already have this done. That's the difference. That's pretty darn good. I'm going to keep going just a little bit more. I don't know if the camera will pick it up since I'm not behind the camera. So I'll move this around. Maybe you'll see the edge and the shine. You can see it's concave down through the middle. And the shiny sections around the edges is where I've started to hone that. Probably more than I need to. I'm not entirely sure what angle, we're going to call this the triangle. I'm not entirely sure what angle I cut. I'll have to get an angle finder at some point and look to see for you. But I think I'm going to be very, very happy with it. So while I continue this, I'm going to do this to the other side, and then I'll come back when I'm going to put a final hone on it. Hope you've enjoyed so far. Okay, everyone. It's about 8 or 10 minutes later. I'm finished with this, and it's only 8 or 10 minutes later because I was being kind of obsessive compulsive. I wanted to have a perfectly straight line here to make sure I get a perfectly straight edge here. I did not want to have any kind of a round to my skew. So what do I do next? Well, I could cut with this exactly as it is, but I also like to take a little bit of oil, or you can use Windex or even water for this. This is wet, dry, 1200 grit. I'm going to find that edge. I'm going to find the flat here. And I'm just going to start doing Cheerios again. And this doesn't take all that long. Just a few minutes, and I will have this thing buffed to a razor sharp edge. So 1200 grit, wet, dry. Use Windex, use water, use penetrating oil, use some kind of lubricant on here. I find some kind of lubricant works best. This is the same way that I sharpen the iron in a plane, by the way, or the cutting edge on a plane. So that's why I said in one of my other videos, I think it was the review on these, if you're going to buy a set of chisels and you want to know how to hone them, you should probably start with a hand plane because it will teach you how to sharpen metal. So, and this probably isn't 1200 grit anymore. I've used this sheet quite a bit. I've used it to sharpen a couple of planes. And now to do my chisel sets and my turning tools. So it's probably 2,000 grit. I was watching a video the other night with a fella who was doing a demonstration on stuff like this, because I like to watch other people do this stuff too. Sometimes you pick up new things. And he had all different grits set out, and he had them from like 200, 400, 800, 1200, and the last one he listed as lethal. I thought that was funny. So I'm actually getting a pretty good edge on here. Let's see if I can stand up in front of the camera and show you. You can see kind of shiny along the heel, kind of shiny along that cutting edge, a concave in the middle. I want to polish this a little bit more. If you're going to do this with a sharpening stone, it is going to be a little bit rougher on the metal than what diamond would be, which is one of the reasons why I use 1200 grit sandpaper. Again, I'm probably creating more work for myself than is necessary by using a sharpening stone instead of using diamond. But I wanted to demonstrate the fact that you can do this on a budget with the supplies that you have in-house. You can sharpen this, you can get a good edge, and I'm going to do a cutting demonstration with this once we're done, just so we can see how it cuts. Because let's face it, you want to know how it cuts, right? I want to know how it cuts. I'm excited to see how it cuts. I have not used a skew chisel with this steep of an angle yet, and I want to see if it cuts better than it did beforehand. You want to see if it cuts better than it did before. I should have done a demonstration from before I cut it, because I did have it sharp. When I first bought these, that's the first thing I did was take them out of the box. I took a sharpening stone to them, and I took the sandpaper to it, and on a couple of them I even put them straight to the grinder. But I kept all the angles the same. I just sharpened them so that they would be effective. I don't know why I did that. Go through all that trouble to sharpen them and get them just right, and then decide you want to change the angle. Well, you know, sometimes that's the way it goes. You use what works best for you. Let's see how we're looking there. I've got a pretty polished edge to that. Not fantastic. I could stand to do some more. That side's good. This side I think could use a little more. I think my sandpaper's starting to wear out finally. I'm probably 2,000 grit, which puts me up in that lethal sandpaper range. That's the best thing that I've seen yet this week on YouTube. I don't remember who he was, but kudos to him. So I'm just making sure that I've got that nice and flat. A lot of people also like to put this on a sheet of glass if you're doing a plane. I don't think that's going to be necessary for this particular operation. But if you want to make sure that that's 100% flat, put a sheet of glass underneath your sandpaper. You're not going to hurt anything. Alright. I think that's good enough for a test. At some point, I do want to do a little bit more to it, but I think that's perfectly good for a test. That ought to be just about razor sharp. And one last thing that I'm going to do, I use these points a lot. So I'm just going to lay this down nice and flat, scoot it straight back. You might also do this with the sharpening stone if you've been rather aggressive with your grinding. I want to make sure that I have a nice, beautiful cutting edge, because I use those points a lot. So, let's go find out how it works. Be right back. Alright, we are back in the shop, and we've got the lathe plugged in, and what we want to know is how is my new chisel going to cut. So I've actually got a piece laid out on here that I was doing for a chest demonstration. Camera was right in my way. So let's find out how this cuts, shall we? So let's say, I think I was going to stop there. Let's do Beautiful. Cuts a V groove in that like nothing. What if I want to round it? Like butter. I like it. Very happy. And my parting tool that I reshaped yesterday. I put a very, very steep angle on this. Beforehand, I think it was more, it looked like another equilateral triangle, all three sides the same distance. And I always felt like I was having to push it into the woodwork and that it was fighting me. Now, if I put this in, watch this. Cuts right down with no problem at all. Absolutely beautifully. So there you have it. If you're going to buy a set of chisels, you're going to have to sharpen them at a minimum. You may have to reshape them to the way you want them. In fact, you probably should reshape them to the way you want them. So there's a couple quick videos on what you're going to do with that. I thought you might find it interesting. See if I can scoot the camera in a little closer for you and you can see what that did. See that? Beautiful cut. So there you have it, folks. That is another random video by the Happy Woodworker. It's going to take me forever to string all of these videos together because I've done them all in segments. But hopefully by now you've seen a pretty complete picture of what I did. I hope you enjoy. Subscribe, like my page, and I will be back later on continuing the video that I'm working on, which is chess pieces. Thanks everybody. Don't forget to stop and smell the sawdust.